Welcome to Chasing a Murderer, and today, guys, we are on part 72 of Life Beyond the Grave, which is attached to the Lori Vallow case. We are in 2018, and this is where things are really starting to get incredibly interesting. And this is where we can kind of go back and forth between some of the information that's available to the public anyways, and decipher where Lori might be learning some of this stuff that most people are not aware either exists or even is possible. There's a lot of people that believe that Chad Daybell is over all these teachings. But to be honest with you guys, let's just say it right now. Lori is not a dumb woman. She knows exactly what she wanted to do, and she was listening to several people. And Julie Rowe was one of her very favorites. There is no way in heck that within a few months that she learned everything that she learned. And I'm going to share where she's getting this information from with Julie Rowe, but we're not going to blame Julie Rowe because Lori Vallow's an adult. And besides that, you're fixing to see a twist come up pretty soon. Where we left off, Lori Vallow headed to St. George, preparing a people conference where she would meet Chad Daybell. And we'll go more into this later. Let's go over it briefly, though. While there, she finds Chad Daybell, and the two of them hit it off like they've known each other forever, according to witnesses. While all her family members and friends that come with her mingled about, she spent a lot of time with Chad. So what did they talk about? Well, they were talking about many things. A lot of it that really stood out was the multiple life or multiple probations. Lori Vallow seems to be very, very interested in this. And at the time, Chad Daybell, he doesn't know that much about this at this time. He's heard it from Julie. He talked a little bit about it, but no one else says Chad Daybell was into multiple probations like he will be within a few weeks. Chad tells Lori that he believes that she and he were married in previous lives. Not once, but multiple times. All this is happening while Charles is at work, Lori's husband, and Tammy Daybell is at home alone with her children, or alone, while her husband is chatting to women at preparing a people conferences. They're staying at a hotel, and according to witnesses, Chad comes over and hangs out with the ladies at the hotel for a short period. Now, most people know the story, so I'm not going to go too much into this. I want to share what you don't know. According to Melanie Gibb, they're only there a couple of days, 3 days, and Chad is only there Friday and Saturday, and then he leaves. And Lori is extremely excited about this new meeting. In fact, she and Chad Daybell, they exchange emails and phone numbers, and they will stay in touch regular. Just a few months before this, Julie Rowe's doing a podcast, August of 2018. And I want to share quite a bit of it with you so that you really do need to pay attention to this if you're interested in this case. Julie starts off this podcast talking about her education. You're going to like this.
I'm about 8 classes shy of my master's, and I just decided that wasn't the plan to ever really finish. Because I don't need to utilize a master's degree. And I love to read and study on my own. That's where I've received most of my education is through the Spirit, however, in my near-death experiences and through personal revelation. The Spirit can teach us through direct revelation in a much more pure form than any book or public speaker ever could, right?
Julie Rowe is learning directly from Jesus Christ himself and many heavenly spirits. She's in constant communication with some of these angelic beings. Ironically, this podcast is actually about mental illness. So let's dig in. Now, Julie's going to talk about some sensitive subjects, and she's also going to mention the fact that the adversary, how he can implant these horrible thoughts in your head, and even sad thoughts, happy thoughts. many times referring to Satan and his minions.
From an outside energy, the adversary has the ability to implant thoughts, emotions, frequencies, and energy, including the form of energy weapons. This is spiritual warfare. Now, people have asked me often if the premortal battle was actually physical or if it was just spiritual. To me, it's one and the same, but the memories I have of that battle are that it was very physical. We were spirit matter, but spirit matter is just kind of, I look at it like finer matter, but it's still matter. It's movable, it's manipulated, able to be manipulated, and it can be formed, it can be changed, it can transform, transfer, and transcend.
Remember the audio recording where Lori Vallow sharing her warrior visions of herself? I think she's getting it from this.
And it can be translated. And so when I do these sessions with my clients, what I often will do, as I see the dark energy that's either been implanted or has been passed down through generational things, or if someone has, for instance, some kind of a trauma of abuse as a child, and then that energy magnifies and collects or attracts other energy at that frequency. What I've been taught by the Spirit is how to clear some of that energy and to flip or change the energy so that it goes from a negative to a positive. If you look at the basic.
So you can hear her talking about frequencies, basically energy and vibrations. I wish I had more time to have studied the energy code. I wanted to so I can know what I was talking about, but sadly I ran out of time. Listen to what she says after she mentions mental illness.
My understanding is addiction is a form of mental illness because it literally changes the neurotransmission in the brain. I don't look at someone from just one dimension or even 2 or 3 dimensions. I see their energy, I see their auric layers, I see and feel and hear more of what's going on with their energy bodies, BODIES, and the chakras and the magnetics and the meridians, and so much that goes into play, the gamma rays and everything. And there are so many factors that influence whether someone has an addiction of any kind or has any kind of a mental illness, including homosexuality.
So here's something I wanted to share. See, Julie teaches that murder is not okay.
Same thing with depression, anxiety, suicide, murder. Anyone who participates in those acts is not in their right mind. Either someone else has seized their mind and heart, or they themselves have turned to darkness on their own, or it has been passed down genetically to them that they have some kind of an impulse behavior issue or a psychopathic personality disorder or personality disorder. There are many, many reasons why someone might suffer from something that could cause them ailment like this.
So you heard her mention that there was something that could take you over.
My undergrad degree was in psychology. And so I have actually studied this in school. I've worked in the field, but the things that I've learned that I want to talk to you about today are not the things that psychologists and psychiatrists talk about, because they do not yet understand what goes on. Just in the last few years, scientists have admitted and discovered that we have 5 dimensions.
So you can hear this. She's talking kind of like a pseudoscience. Let's not go by what the doctors say. Let's kind of go by something else.
I used to say that there are only 3 dimensions around us, and I have been in communication with people from many more dimensions than that. So I'm here to witness and testify to you that there's a lot that science has not yet discovered here on planet Earth, and the Lord is light years ahead of human beings here on the planet. When it comes to mental illness,
she talks more about frequencies and then goes to this place.
Think outside of the logic of your human mind and think about the universe being energy. All intelligences, the intelligence is the glory of God. All intelligence was designed to have a purpose. Gender was foreordained before we came to the earth as you were formed. And just because that spirit matter or even that physical matter has been manipulated does not mean that you were originally designed that way.
Julie gives us a hint of multiple probations. Then she goes into talking a little bit about translation.
Change can be purified, and that's where we have the atonement that comes in. That's where we have a resurrection at a future date. That's where we have translation of the human body. You literally are translating and changing the DNA that makes up your physical body at the time. You change emotionally, you change spiritually, and then you change physically. And there's an order to that when you're talking about translation.
I don't get what that has to do with translation of RNA and that sort of stuff in your DNA, and what she's meaning by, as she's kind of morphing translation into translating. I don't know. She jumps in a little bit to agency.
And agency is at play here, folks. We had premortal decisions that we made and things and missions that we signed up for where we agreed to certain conditions, including those physical ailments or calamities that we would experience in mortality. Now, that's one of the ways that I cope with my mental illness that I've been given, that came through, some of it on my family line, and it was triggered by the EBV virus that was implanted in me, as well as the Lyme disease. And, when I have seizures, I literally feel like someone's trying to seize my brain. It's an adversarial effect. I will see anything from little gremlins trying to claw at my skull to hooded men that hide in the shadows that are trying to seize control. Think about Star Wars, and I don't want to get too much into this, but the dark side is constantly trying to seize control of the light side. That's what they aim to do. And they do that in a number of different ways. On Earth, as human beings, we have members of our government, worldwide and in the United States government, who are manipulating our food through GMO and other things, which are affecting our mental health and our physical health. You can't separate the two. You cannot separate your mental health from your physical health. They're tied together. And we also have members of our government who are purposefully sending frequencies out. They have high-end technology that they have not disclosed to the public. If you talk to certain senators and other people that are familiar, I've been in touch with them, and they have confirmed and verified this for me.
So you imagine being Lori Vallow and you believe this stuff. Wow, it's kind of scary, right?
They've been doing this for a long time. Now, it sounds really sci-fi, but I see the same thing going on in the spirit world. They do it in the spirit world, and they do it here on Earth. This is a telestial state, and in the spirit realm, we have spirit prison, we have spirit paradise, and we have celestial worlds, and telestial and terrestrial worlds where people reside, with varying levels of degrees of darkness and light. And then we have, clear out and outer darkness, to varying degrees of abuse and manipulation of these forms of matter.
She goes into attachments here.
It's also due to many times spirit attachments or to dark energy. It's all dark matter. It's all dark energy in varying degrees. It might be more gray than dark. Sometimes it's absolutely black. When I scan someone's body and I can see that they have black spots on their liver, and then the spirit tells me they have cancer, that is dark matter that was implanted there or manipulated by the adversary. Same thing when I look and scan at someone's brain. If I see that their neurotransmitters are off and that they have a porn addiction, that has been brought on by things passed down genetically through dark matter or energy frequencies that are being sent. And then it's reinforced by the actions of the individual who succumbs to that addiction. Every single one of us has at least 7 layers to our energy bodies, and those of us that have lived longer into the eternities have thousands of layers of our energy bodies. And depending on the age of our spirits and how many probations we've had and things like that, it all goes into play. If you've had a past probation where there was some kind of trauma that happened to you, you carry that energy into your next probation. And that's why we have, things that are passed down to us genetically, as well as life energies, and why we have things, premortal things that come up. Some of you
remember what Lori said in that audio just recently, and then listen to this.
Have memories of premortal war. Some of you have memories of being a guardian angel on the planet and things like that. And that all comes into play when we're talking about any kind of illness or any kind of behavior, any kind of strength or weakness in our personalities and things like that.
You can also carry curses from past lives and even generations. And this is what she says about that.
Breaking the chains and breaking the curses that have been put upon my family line or upon this earth. And that is all real stuff. We break the contracts, break the curses, we get rid of the hexes, we get rid of the marks. Those are all things that are real. It's things that members of the LDS Church don't like to talk about. It's things that most people don't want to talk about because most people don't know that it's real, and the adversary tries to tell us that it's a bunch of hogwash.
So there you can see she admits that this is not something the LDS would appreciate or even teach. So why does she continue to teach it? Well, she certainly believes it. August 2018, she's talking about possession.
Okay, So, related to mental illness. Now, it's not a pleasant thought to think about being possessed, but I'm here to tell you that every single one of you at some point in time has had that dark energy flow in and out of you. That's how it is. Someone is not possessed. We have this idea that to be possessed, you have to be wicked. That is just not true. I have seen toddlers who are possessed throwing a tantrum, and the reason they're throwing a tantrum is because they're possessed and they don't like the evil spirit inside of them. Or I've seen spirit attachments. A spirit attachment is entirely different than an actual possession. It is true that through our wicked actions, our sinful behavior, or that we can give openings to the adversary to take possession. And so anytime someone looks at porn or commits adultery or does something like that, it can open them up to the adversary. For instance, if you drink alcohol, actually.
So what does Lori Vallow and Melanie Boudreau say about their husbands? That they're gay or they are watching porn? So there's just a lot of hints going on there of where they might be getting their information. But, she was saying this stuff back with Joe Ryan as well. They were actually trying to set Joe Ryan up around 2017. I'll have to go double check that. She mentions when you do sinful things or take chemicals into your body, you're creating openings for the evil things to come, slip inside and take you over.
Chemical reactions in our brains and in our bodies and our hearts that literally create openings in our auric layers and in our energy bodies. And because of that, you open up dark portals within your energy bodies, and that gives an opening for dark energy to enter in, which is one of the reasons when someone gets drunk or high, you'll hear them talking in weird voices. They get silly. Some of them, you hear people say, well, he's an angry drunk or she's a happy drunk. And most often it's because someone has taken possession. It's when I watch people's behavior and I can see their energy and I can actually see the demons jump in. And you can usually, most of the people I see, they can have maybe a half a beer to a beer. And then the opening in the crown of the head begins. And then I will watch one or two demons take possession. They'll jump into the crown of the head because it leaves an opening. Everybody, depending on their body weight, we know.
Not long ago, Lori told Zach and her kids, when you cuss or you watch bad movies, you have evil spirits screaming in your face. I wonder if this is where this comes from.
Choices that we make, what we look at, what we watch, what we listen to, all affects our auric layers and the energy bodies around us. What I literally see is most people walking around are not fully in their body. Their spirit's somewhat detached from their body. And there's ways that you can command your spirit to go back into your body. And then, which leaves you vulnerable. And then I see these holes that are in the energy bodies or auric layers that can end up looking like cheesecloth. That's the best way to describe it. And so you need to ask the Lord to help reshield, repair, and replenish your shields. And you can ask for something called Sound Remedy D that repairs the holes in your energy bodies. It's an actual music chord that we found has helped heal the energy bodies.
She says you can continue to ask God to help you heal your body, and then says, for one day you're going to be resurrected or translated.
One day resurrected or translated.
Julie also teaches that Lucifer is always in your life trying to get you to do the wrong things.
As Lucifer lies to you to tell you that you can't do it, or you're not worthy, or that you're going to succumb again, or whatever lie he's telling you at the moment, I want you to take a pause for reflection. I want you to hear my voice when I tell you that that's a lie. It's also a lie that you can't keep progressing in the eternities on the other side of the veil. You can. It's difficult when you don't have a body. But I see people all the time on the other side of the veil who are in spirit prison. They accept the gospel and they move into the light and they're welcomed into spirit paradise. And so that plan of salvation is critical for us to have faith in the plan and to recognize, this war in heaven. One of the main key points that Lucifer tried to make was that we couldn't depend on Christ, and that we didn't want to depend on Christ because what if he didn't complete his mission?
By the way, you can go to Julie Rose YouTube channel and you can catch the entire audio. Listening to this, you can see that Julie thinks differently. I mean, yes, it's out there. It's not something that I believe, or maybe you don't believe, but she seems to believe it. And the one thing I did notice is she doesn't seem to have any kind of hatred or motivation to want to hurt people. And she's been doing this since 2014. Only problem is what she's teaching can be dangerous to people um, who will take it too seriously. Julie Rowe's weakness is she can't take criticism. And if you're going to do something like this, well, you're going to have to deal with it. That's just all there is to it. Julie Rowe is dealing with mental illness. She says this, but the reality of how much she accepts it, I don't know.
By society at large, because there's a real stigma that comes with even the words mental illness, the energy, even the vibration of the word mental illness is a low vibration. It brings with it just this depression energy. And there's reasons for that. There's been such a stigma, and there's been so much trauma that has occurred toward those individuals who have shown signs of instability. You take someone who has an illness like schizophrenia, and they tell people that they're seeing people, or they're hearing voices. They really are. They're not just crazy. There's something that happens in their brain that causes the veil to be thin and gives access to the dark side, or the dark side has access to them. It's legit.
Anyway, she says that, if you're diagnosed with schizophrenia and you're hearing voices, well, most likely those voices are real. That's not how that works, Julie. You can't be mentally ill and be correct and really hear the voices. These are voices you're hearing that are not there.
And it's not something to joke about. It's not something to make fun of, and it's not something to judge people with. My heart goes out to any and all who've ever suffered from schizophrenia, bipolar, OCD, oppositional defiant behavior, or any other mental illness.
It's definitely not something to make fun of people for, because it's difficult. But I'm very confused by some people who understand right from wrong, and they continue to do something wrong when they know it's hurting others. I won't go into the rest because it's mostly her hating on homosexuals and how their belief is not true, but hers is. I don't get it. But we're not going to talk about that. I want to talk about the fact that she will mention something quite interesting about suffering. And Lori Vallow has a podcast coming up soon where she mentions the kids must suffer.
If Julie would just read her scriptures and pray, she could be healed. The atonement heals, but maybe it's part of the plan that I suffer from this and it's for a much higher purpose.
So I'm going to cut it short there because there's a lot more she has to say, and it's quite interesting. And like I said, head over to her YouTube channel and you can listen to the entirety of that audio. Lori Vallow had a wonderful weekend at the St. George Conference. And she is in with some of the biggest names attached to the Preparing the People. And Chad Daybell, well, he's going to be the for sure in. What's strange is Jason Mao, well, he's been at the temple, he's talking to people, and he's sending a lot of these people to Melanie Gibb. And one of those people that actually Jason Mao will meet at a temple, well, her name is Serena. He tells Serena, you know what, you remind me of Melanie Gibb, so why don't you reach out to Melanie? Here's her number. And Serena does it. According to Serena, she says she's all the way in Connecticut, and that during this time she had never met Lori Vallow. She gets up with Melanie Gibb, and Melanie Gibb invites her to hang out with her in Arizona because, guess what? She and Lori, they're going to a conference in Mesa, Arizona, and they're going to actually do a little stay at one of Lori's houses, the bigger home, Melanie Gibb says, and actually have a little fireside there. So they're making plans for a lot of people to come into Arizona and stay with Lori preparing for the Preparing the People conference. All right, guys, I wanted to say make sure you check out these missing girls' faces. Don't forget to share them. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon.